Hey humans, today I'm going to tell you a story that proves that the afterlife exists. If you have been on this planet for a little while, chances are you have experienced one of the most inevitable aspects of our humanity, being death. Well, you yourself might be alive, but you might have experienced the passing of a loved one, a close friend, or a family member. Unfortunately, such is the reality that actually provoked me to travel, where I had a loved one who had passed away, and in typical traditional fashion, we went on through the whole process of honoring the deceased. We had a whole ceremony. There was a burial and so on. And at the end, we also, in typical traditional fashion, eventually went home, where we proceeded to bond over welcoming visitors that wanted to also pay their respects. We bonded over food as well as stories of the deceased. So after we all filled up with some good food, myself and my siblings were hanging out and playing with the nephews. One of the little nephews that I was hanging out with was just like any other kid. He was like super fascinated with his reflection on my phone's camera. And at one point he was playing with the camera, and it fell off. And when it fell off, that provoked his mom, who was sitting right next to us, to make an echo. And as soon as he heard that, he just took off running. When he ran, he went straight to the backyard. And that's where the story started taking a different turn.
Ah, no, right? ¿Qué piensas? ¿Qué vas a hacer? ¿Qué vas a hacer? ¿Dónde estás? Aquí estás. Aquí estás. No te va a tu mamá. Vamos, vamos.
Oh, a great portion of this video footage that I'm about to show you is actually in Spanish, because that's just the language that we communicate in. But I will talk of what's happening in English, just in case you don't get it. I'm bored. So after a few minutes, this little nephew just came rushing back into the room, into the kitchen where we were all hanging out. And he went straight to his mom and he said, "Hey, auntie's outside." Now, the auntie that he's referring to is the deceased whom we had just buried a few hours prior. And at this point, the room just went silent. And we're looking around, we're looking at each other, and we're going like, okay, what's going on? So the father of the deceased, the mother of the deceased, as well as the sister of the deceased, of course, myself and everybody, my siblings and everybody else, came out, and we were like, okay, what's happening? We just, and this little young man just kept on coming back, and he keeps running back and forth into the room and going back outside and insisting that we need to come outside because auntie is right outside, and he is able to see and interact with the auntie, whom again is deceased. So you know what? You don't even have to take my words for it. In fact, here's the footage. Check it out.
Allá afuera, ¿te habló? ¿Qué te dijo?
¿Te habló, mi amor?
¿Qué te dijo?
¿Qué te dijo?
Vino
Vino.
y le dijo hello.
¿Te dijo hello?
Vini, Tati. Mami. Tati.
Allí está.
Mami.
Ahí está.
This is so crazy. This young man just went to his mom and took her arm and said, "Hey, auntie is outside," and auntie said hello. And then he just, look at this, he just went outside. He ran outside, and he's over there pointing at where auntie is. Then he ran straight to the middle of the yard as if he's actually going towards a physical object and interacting with whatever is there. It's remarkable. And he kept going back and forth outside for a few minutes, and confirming what he's experiencing, confirming what he's seeing, like in great detail. And the father of the deceased at one point was like, obviously it's unbelievable for everybody. And at one point he stepped outside and peeped and looked and tried to see for himself,
That is crazy.
¿Usted cree que está como alvarito?
No sé. Pero como un niño también. Ellos pueden hacer cosas que nosotros no podemos.
Vamos a salir afuera.
¿No puedes salir afuera?
No.
Ay, Álvaro, yo sé lo que estoy haciendo.
Lo otro no tenía sal.
¿Ah?
Lo que estaba allá hace un ratito no tenía tanta sal.
No te oigo.
Lo que estaba allá hace un ratito no tenía tanta sal.
Sí. Porque no lo he revuelto.
Yep, that is crazy. And he kept coming back again and again, just reporting what he's seeing, what he's experiencing. At this point, I was shocked. I was having goosebumps. I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is really happening!" Like I have never experienced something like that before, and it feels so incredible. And so, while most of us actually were silent in the room, I think it was just unbelievable for all of us because it was such a shocking kind of. The whole thing was just shocking to begin with, the way so many things happened. But as we were experiencing that in that moment in time, there was like the emotions flowing were almost indescribable. And for me personally, it was just, my reaction was just goosebumps. So while there was like starting to be a little bit of conversation going on in the kitchen and listening to how descriptive this young man was being about what he was seeing and experiencing, which nobody else could see. The only thing that came to my mind to do was just to like manage my little goosebumps and whatever was going through me at the time, and grab my phone, walked outside just to see, just to bear witness for, of what he was experiencing. And so I picked up my phone, walked outside, and he enthusiastically followed. In fact, he look at this. He started running directly towards what he was experiencing, and as soon as I got inside, I'm like, okay, so show me where's Auntie? And he ran straight to the spot in the middle of the ground, and he was like, okay, it's right there. Auntie's right there. I can see her. She's sitting right there. And whatever I asked them, okay, is she there? They both now started pointing. Yes, she's right there. And it's like, look at them. It's like they have like a little boundary of where they need to be versus where she is. And they keep confirming and pointing that, yes, Auntie is right there. Look at that. There? This is remarkable. This is amazing.
You still see her? Yeah?
And so I kept asking them, is she there? Is she there? And it's like, yes, she's there. And for the next few minutes, this little nephew went on communicating extremely, like very descriptively, what she was wearing, that she was by herself, and she's just elegantly displayed there, and like he's literally walking in her surrounding. Like, And so that exchange actually went on for a while. They kept going back and forth between the house and the backyard. And each time they come back, they come back with additional details as to what they are experiencing, what she's wearing or what she's doing, and so on and so forth. And so after a while, I went back outside again. This was one of the craziest things I've ever experienced, and it was crazy too. Like when I looked at my arms, and I had like goosebumps, and my little hairs, my arms were like as if I had been electrocuted or something. And it's one of those things you just can't explain. You just can't explain. So. Of course, the little babies being little kids that they were, they keep running back and forth, playing, and so after a little while, I caught up with one of them. That was like the big one. I caught up with him, and I asked him. Here's a bit of a footage. I'm asking him, okay, show me, is Auntie still there? And whatever I ask him, he keeps saying yes, and pointing and confirming that yes, Auntie is still there. Check it out.
¿Ella no se fue?
So I'm asking here, is Auntie gone? Is she here? And he's like, yes, she's right there. And he's pointing back to the exact same spot where he was circulating around earlier, confirming, yes, Auntie is still there. She hasn't gone anywhere. She's right there. And of course, as you can see in the camera, it's just an empty little field.
Mira.
And yep. He ran straight to the spot, and he's pointing like you can't make that up. I mean, this is as as real as it gets. Like this little baby, this little child is seeing something that none of us can see at this moment in time, and the amount of details that comes with what he's like experiencing, even in his little toddler language, it's just that's how you know this is something unique that is being experienced right now. And even me, as an adult who's never experienced something like that before, I know inside of me, I had all kinds of emotions and feelings and things. Just the goosebumps in my arm alone, it's almost communicating to me that okay, this is something to be reckoned with. And so after a while, I made my way inside of the house because I wanted to talk to one of the uncles, predominantly the father of the deceased, and I wanted to get his opinion, his perspective as to what we had just been experiencing. And I'm translating here in advance, because the footage that you're about to see is all in Spanish. And so basically, what he said to me was that, like little children have always had the power to see things that us adults cannot. Like they usually can see through other dimensions that adults just can't. Or they don't have the gift to. So as our conversation went on, and I shared with him what I was experiencing myself, and at first I was like, man, these little kids are loco. They are crazy. But of course they're not crazy. In fact, he very nicely reminded me that no, these kids are, children are innocent. And the fact that I was able to capture this in my camera and witness this myself is evident that this is all real. This is really happening. And at the end, we chucked it up to God, and I walked out saying, God knows. So this next footage is that conversation I was having with this uncle.
Yeah. Señor, ¿y qué piensa usted de esa vaina? ¿Qué dice que hay unas aquí?
Se sabe, porque muchas veces los niños pueden ver más allá de lo que nosotros vemos. Ellos pueden atravesar dimensiones en las cuales nosotros no podemos, pero puede ser real.
Puede, porque son...
Ahí está, me dice, ahí vale.
Sí. También yo le pregunto, muéstrame, ¿dónde? Que está acá, está aquí, ahí. Sí, pero y no fui en la área central, solo como se camine a los raros. ¿Qué cosa?
Pero que puede ocurrir. Porque ellos son inocentes.
Sí, claro.
Entonces mira mucho más allá de lo que las escrituras dicen que en los últimos días los niños iban a ver visiones. La doctrina y convenios de eso.
Entonces
yo vi que estaba tratando de ver si lograba agarrarlo con la cámara, ¿verdad?
Oh, sí, yo fui acá a ver, solo quería como recordar lo que es ese momento, ¿sí? Porque si yo dije a alguien que ese niño dice eso, pero creo que yo estoy loco,
pero son testigos que fue real y aquí nosotros también somos testigos.
Exactamente. Entonces, yo sabe, ¿no?
El precio del curso completo de inglés de Rosetta Stone. El precio regular del curso de inglés entero cuesta $499, pero si marcas ya.
I walked out of that room with goosebumps all over my body. And look, it has been scientifically proven that death is not the end of consciousness. That was my first ghost or yeah, that was my first ghost experience where I got to wonder about death from a different perspective. Like, is it just like, is death an illusion? What happens after death? What is the afterlife? Sure, those are all age-old questions, but it had become very personal from that moment on. And so at this point, I'm leaving it up to you. I'm very curious about your thoughts and perspectives on this topic. So leave a comment below, and I'd be very interested to hear or to read and see your own experiences revolving around this age-old topic. So if this video appealed to you, you are more than welcome to give it a like and subscribe for more stories from my journey through life so far. Until next time, cheers.